Chapter 4101. His hoarse voice drifted through the air. This matter is my fault. I'll think of a way to clear your name and also clear my name without affecting you. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes trembled slightly. His gaze slowly shifted to the direction where the man had disappeared. A stretch of nothingness. Only the vaguely floating yin qi in the air proved that he had indeed been here. To clear her name, she understood what he meant. He wanted to help her prove that she was not Mu Qiulan's murderer. However, what the hell was this about clearing his name? He wanted to clear his name. This time she was lured out of the treasure house by him to meet him alone, and this was used as evidence of Mu Qiulan's murder. Did he really not know anything and was innocent? Yiqing Luo laughed lightly. His emotions were very faint. Actually, it really didn't matter if he was innocent or not. For her. After all, he was just a stranger. There were no other strange auras in the surroundings. Yiqing Luo then returned to the bedside. As soon as he sat down, a few ladies' respectful greetings came from outside the door. Mysterious Lady of Yen. Immediately after, the woman's angry voice could be heard. Get out of the way. Please calm down, Mysterious Lady of Yen. The Grand Judicial Elder has ordered that no one is allowed to enter this room. The woman guarding the door answered respectfully. Nonsense. The woman pushed him to the side. I clearly sensed his aura. It's here. Him. The gatekeeper was a bit confused. The Grand Elder of the Judiciary only brought a woman and placed her in this room. There's no one else. I'll know if there's anyone else in there. The woman said as she forcefully pushed the door open. Yiqing Luo heard the commotion outside and the creaking sound of her room door being pushed. Her bed hadn't even warmed up yet? She had only been in Linglong Palace Hall for a short while. So lively already? One after another? Couldn't he let her have a good rest? Later on, he still had to brace himself to deal with the legendary palace master of Linglong Palace. Yiqing Luo was cursing silently when the room's door was forcefully pushed and obstructed by that lady and the female gatekeeper. Under such repeated actions, a paw sound was heard and the wooden door directly collapsed. Soon after, a slender figure strode in. The woman was dressed in a deep blue embroidered dress with a peony pattern. She looked extremely youthful and beautiful. Her facial features were regular and she could be considered a beauty. A pair of mischievous and quick-witted eyes were searching for something in the surroundings. Yiqing Luo saw a sliver of cautiousness and anticipation on the lady's face. Anticipation? What did this woman hope to find in the room where she was imprisoned? Seemed like, did this woman just say, him? Did he sense his aura? This he, does it refer to the palace master of the Palace of Darkness? Just now he was the only one who had appeared in her room. After a round of searching, the woman did not find the person she was looking for. His face immediately darkened. She bit her lower lip hard, her face showing a bit of grievance. Where did you hide him? The lady directly pointed the spearhead towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo? The woman's vision fell onto Yiqing Luo. Her face instantly frowned into a bundle. That pair of quick-witted eyes flashed past a tinge of treachery and jealousy. You are that woman who killed Mu Qiulan and Xiao Yulu? Chapter 4102. It really is you. A hint of hostility surfaced in the depths of the woman's eyes. What's your relationship with Brother Gong? Facing this young lady's inexplicable hostility and baffling question, Yiqing Luo asked, Miss, who are you? The woman's face stiffened and she pursed her red lips. I'm Wu Fu-er, the Mystic Maiden of Winterless City. You've killed 2 Mystic Maidens of the main cities. Are you going to kill me next? Since you know, why are you still trying to get close to me? Yiqing Luo raised her brows as she looked at her with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Mystic Maiden Wu Fuer's face darkened. The 2 of them were stupid, that's why they were killed by you. But I'm different. If you dare touch me, the people of Linglong Palace will not let you off. Yiqing Luo crossed her arms as she looked at the lady who was clamoring in front of her. This Linglong Palace Hall really knows how to pick their Empyrean maiden. 3 Empyrean fairies from the main cities. Her appearance could be considered top-notch. And their styles were different. Xiao Yulu was the unattainable type of fairy. Mu Qiulan, on the other hand, was the mature and cool type. Wu Fuer was the spoiled and mischievous type. These 3 Empyrean fairies had different appearances and styles. However, the 3 of them had one thing in common. That was the attitude of thinking too highly of oneself. Compared to the other two, the Empyrean maiden of Smokeless City was clearly more arrogant and overbearing. Yiqing Luo, you'd better be obedient in Linglong Palace's territory. Wu Fu Air saw that Yiqing Luo wasn't intimidated by her at all, and even looked at her with that ridiculing expression. A ball of fury surged in her heart. Her face darkened and her eyes swept around the room again. Tell me, was Brother Gong here just now? Brother Gong? The palace master of Gloomy Palace was surnamed Gong? Looking at Wu Fuer's concerned attitude, could it be? Wu Fuer must have secretly fallen in love with the palace master of the Palace of Tenebrous Palace. The palace master of the Netherworld Palace was really lucky with women. He slept with Mu Qilan. Now he had Wu Fuer on top of that. Both of them were peerless beauties. So, what he said about liking her, and so on could not be taken seriously. The palace master of Netherworld Palace, whose sincerity was once again implicated for no reason. What are you laughing at? Wu Fu Air's eyebrows creased tightly as she stretched out her hand to push Yiqing Luo. I'm asking you a question, can't you hear me? Her hand had yet to reach Yiqing Luo. A sharp pain came from his arm. She let out a blood-curdling scream. Her wrist was grasped by two white and slender fingers in a seemingly nimble manner. He wanted to struggle. However, those two fingers were like boulders not moving at all. She almost broke the bones in her hand. You dare. Wu Fu Air's face was pale from the pain and cold sweat beaded on her forehead. The waves of pain seemed to emanate from his bones. Yiqing Luo forcefully flung Wu Fu Air's hand away as her lips curled into a cold sneer. Be careful, don't get touchy, I don't know how to be gentle with the fairer sex. Wu Fu Air's face was extremely pale as she held onto her wrist as her eyes turned red from the pain. Even though Yiqing Luo had let go, she still felt waves of intense pain coming from her bones. Mysterious Lady Yen. When the ladies outside the door saw that, all of them rushed in with a terrified expression. The female guards' expressions were filled with terror. Mysterious Lady Yen, are you all right? Chapter 4103. Hearing Wu Fu Er's order, Wu Fu Er's eyes widened. The female gatekeepers looked at each other. For a moment he could not make up his mind. After all, Yiqing Luo was brought back by the Grand Magistrate. They only asked them to look after Yiqing Luo and not allow her to leave the room. There was no need to interfere with anything else. But they did not dare to disobey the orders of the mysterious Lady of Yama. On one side was Yen Zunf and on the other side was the Great Justice. This put them in an extremely difficult position. The female gatekeepers did not move. To Wu Fu Air, this was akin to giving Yiqing Luo a tight slap on her face. Immediately her face darkened. Are you all dead? Can't you hear me? The female gatekeepers hesitated. After weighing the pros and cons, they still flocked towards Yiqing Luo. 10 overladies immediately surrounded Yiqing Luo. One of the women advised in a low voice. Miss Yi, Yen Xuannu is the granddaughter of our Wu Yen Hall's Wu Yen Hall master. If you want to be safe and sound in Linglong Hall, you better apologize to Yen Xuannu and give in. Granddaughter? This Wu Fuer was actually someone from the Linglong Palace? She had thought that the 3 Empyrean fairies of the Earth Realm were chosen by the major forces and families of the 3 main cities. It was no wonder that Wu Fuer's temper and arrogance were so much more flamboyant than the other 2 Empyrean fairies. As it turned out, their backer was the Linglong Palace Hall. The few ladies took action at the same time and were about to seize Yiqing Luo. Ah! Several screams rang out. Wu Fu Air's smug smile froze on her face. In his ears there were screams. Following that, many lotus green figures flew backward and crashed into her. Yiqing Luo. Wu Fu Air's expression darkened. She stomped on the ground and flew into the air. Those Linglong Palace's disciples who were sent flying, all fell to the ground. Wu Fu Air didn't even look at those people. Her 5 fingers formed into claws and turned into sharp blades. They were like fine iron and cold ice, reflecting a piercingly cold light. Her figure moved and she had already overtaken Yiqing Luo. His attack was filled with killing intent. It was obvious that he was furious. The violent and sharp profound light was filled with killing intent. Damn Yiqing Luo. How dare he be so arrogant? She had been slapped in the face again and again, making her lose face. He would let her know the consequences of being arrogant. The falling profound rays and the attack which was filled with murderous intent made Yiqing Luo's slender brows rise again. Wu Fu-er was slightly more powerful than the other two mysterious fairies. The claw came down. It carried a majestic and thick profound energy. If it wasn't for Yiqing Luo's quick reaction, this claw could probably leave a huge hole in a person's body. Yiqing Luo took half a step back. Her fingertips moved slightly and the enchanting red light in her hand swept out in an alluring arc. It was like a blazing flame, burning brightly. In an instant he blocked Wu Fu-er's sharp claws. Wu Fu-er was shaken by the Xian energy. The expression on his face became more and more sinister. Her delicate little face became ferocious. All right. Good job. This was the first time that Wu Fu-er, who was used to being domineering in the Linglong Hall, had been given the cold shoulder. She had not expected Yiqing Luo's guts to be so unyielding, totally not playing her cards according to the norm. The moment he made his move, she had no way out. If she retreated, she would be unwilling. Moreover, her reputation would be swept away. Thinking of this, the expression on Wu Fuer's face became even more vicious. That pair of lively big eyes were filled with a bloodthirsty ferocious beast, overflowing with a vicious aura. Since Yiqing Luo was looking for death. Chapter 4104. The female disciples of the Linglong Palace, who had been blasted out of their rooms and were lying on the ground, looked at the scene before them anxiously. The maid who had followed Wu Fu-er left quietly and ran towards the direction of the judicial courtyard. Wu Fu-er's attacks were swift and violent. Every single move was filled with murderous intent. And it became more and more ferocious. It was totally different from her appearance. Yiqing Luo had already seen through Wu Fu-er's attacks after exchanging a few blows with her. And because of that, just as Wu Fu-er attacked again, Yiqing Luo had already made use of her skills to break all her attacks and forced her to retreat several steps. Wu Fu-er's face turned slightly pale. Her chest was heaving up and down due to her heavy breathing. A pair of sinister eyes, like a poisonous snake, stared venomously at Yiqing Luo. "Do you still want to fight?" Yiqing Luo smiled at Wu Fu-er with a relaxed expression. As though she wasn't affected by Wu Fu-er at all. This was the Linglong Palace after all. It wasn't her turf. Yiqing Luo had no intention to kill. She wanted to make a move to warn the others in case a bunch of boorish people popped in every few days in the Linglong Palace. She didn't have the time to deal with them. Wu Fu-er only felt that this smile was to humiliate and ridicule her. Her facial features became even more twisted. Slut. She took a deep breath and her profound energy burst forth once again as she charged towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as a mocking smile appeared on her face. Her hands moved. The glower flame fan on her fingertips opened up. The coquettish profound light turned into a huge dragon as it bared its fangs and brandished its claws towards Wu Fu-er. The rich red light flickered continuously. The biting cold and violent profound light whistled in the air. "Stop." Suddenly a loud shout was heard. Following that, Yiqing Luo felt a huge pressure descending from the sky. Almost at the same instant that the terrifying aura attacked him, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him. Yiqing Luo's fingers retracted. She quickly gathered all her profound energy around her body and formed an enchantment barrier. Her footwork moved and her body moved swiftly. At the same time, bam bam bam. Deafening explosions resounded throughout the place. Yiqing Luo's front foot had just left. The entire house collapsed with a loud bang. The profound light vibrated, and the remaining power caused ripples to appear in the air. Such powerful strength. Yiqing Luo's pupils dilated slightly. He was panting a little. Fortunately, she reacted quickly enough. He managed to dodge the sudden attack in time. "How dare you behave so atrociously in the Linglong Palace?" His deep voice was filled with profound energy. Every single word was like a blow to one's eardrum, falling heavily into one's heart. Yiqing Luo finally stabilized her footsteps and had yet to see clearly who the person who suddenly appeared was. Then a green whirlwind, like a piercingly cold sharp blade, cut through the sky and chopped down. The huge green light blade was like a mark falling from the sky. Yiqing Luo suppressed the shock in her heart and swiftly took a few steps back. He quickly raised his arm and the devouring flame fan burst into a blazing red light, blocking the green light blade. When the glowing flame fan collided with the sharp blade, Yiqing Luo only felt a numbness in her arm. Her body was forced to take another step back by this majestic aura. The huge pressure hit her in an instant. Yiqing Luo's face turned slightly pale and there was a dull pain in her chest. She pursed her lips tightly, suppressing this uncomfortable feeling, and circulated the profound energy in her body, trying to contend against this force. Chapter 4105. Under the confrontation of the two profound energy, there was a loud explosion. In all directions there was a large area of light that was attacking. The houses within the radius of 100 miles started to shake. A few cracks seemed to have appeared in the air because of this. Yiqing Luo's breathing was heavy as she pressed her chest and looked towards the direction of the attack. Not far away, a few figures were approaching quickly. Those people were dressed in lotus green robes, which were slightly different from the other female disciples. At the very front was an elder of about 50 years of age who was supporting Wu Fuer with one hand. His hair was tied up neatly and there was a gloomy air in between his brows. The elderly supported Wu Fuer as his venomous and arrogant gaze shot towards Yiqing Luo. On seeing that Yiqing Luo was safe and sound, there was a slight change in his gaze. She raised her chin slightly as her tone was filled with questions. Who do you think you are? How dare you behave atrociously in Linglong Hall? How dare you touch the granddaughter of my Yanfree Hall's hallmaster? While the elderly was questioning, Wu Fuer pouted as she stretched out her hand in front of the elderly. Grandmother, look at my hand. It hurts. The elderly held Wu Fuer's wrist as she lowered her head to take a look. Instantly, her eyes were covered with a layer of frost. She raised her head coldly and looked at Yiqing Luo as she questioned coldly, My granddaughter's hand, were you the one who hurt it? Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she met the elderly's gaze without any change in expression. Yanfree Hall's hallmaster? That was Wu Fuer's grandmother? Her place was really bustling. One after another. Even the main hall's hallmaster was here. Then next, would it be Linglong Hall's hallmaster's turn? Yiqing Luo wasn't too clear about Linglong Hall's hierarchy. But she knew that this Yanfree Hall's hallmaster was not on the same level as Hallmaster Ji and Hallmaster Lu. Hallmaster Ji and Hallmaster Lu should be a small hallmaster of a branch hall. And this Yanfree Hall, according to the names of the three main cities in the Linglong Hall. It should be the Linglong Hall's main hall, one of the three halls' hallmaster. From the strength of this hallmaster earlier, the elderly's ability was definitely very strong. At the very least, if they were to fight, she wouldn't be able to gain the upper hand. While she was sizing up the old man, Hall leader Wu Yan was also carefully examining her. Towards Yiqing Luo's name, Hallmaster Wu Yan had actually heard of it. However, he did not take it to heart. The real reason he remembered this name, and it was because of this Yiqing Luo who had killed two of Linglong Palace's mysterious maiden. The Empyrean maiden that their Linglong Palace had painstakingly nurtured. It had only been a month since he left the Linglong Palace. Just like that, two people died. Could it be that the next one would be her granddaughter? The hallmaster of Wu Yan Hall was worried that something like this would happen, so he summoned his granddaughter back from Wu Yan City. Unexpectedly, in the territory of the Linglong Palace, Yiqing Luo was actually so audacious to try and kill Wu Fuer. This was simply not putting their Linglong Palace hall in their eyes. She was just a little girl. She was just relying on her beauty and the backing of Dizun. She didn't believe it. Would the Overlord make things difficult for the Linglong Palace Hall because of a little girl? Thinking of this, an obvious murderous intent flashed past Hallmaster Wu Yan's eyes. That murderous intent did not escape Yiqing Luo's eyes. Chapter 4106. Yiqing Luo, you should be clear of your current status. Seeing Yiqing Luo not answering him, Hall head Wu Yan's expression turned extremely ugly. This was the first time she had been ignored like this. Hearing Hall head Wu Yan's words, Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a faint smile. His gaze was also very indifferent. He looked at Hall Chief Wu Yan calmly and said, So what if I am the one who injured him? What a great, so what if? Hall leader Wu Yan's eyes were sharp as he sneered, You have the lives of two people from Linglong Palace on your back. Now he still dares to behave so unscrupulously and arrogantly in the Linglong Palace. Do you think my Linglong Palace Hall has no one? As she spoke, she pushed Wu Fuer towards the maidservant behind her. Following that, his eyes revealed a vicious glint as he laughed sinisterly towards Yiqing Luo. This hall master would like to see what capabilities you have without the Overlord by your side. As soon as he finished speaking, she suddenly attacked. His figure was as fast as lightning. Yiqing Luo could only see a shadow flitting past her eyes. Hall Master Wu Yan was nowhere to be seen. She narrowed her eyes and quickly released her perception. He carefully sensed the flow of energy in the air. The moment he released his perception, the corners of her mouth lifted. His footwork moved. In an instant, his figure turned into nothingness. Bang! A loud sound rang out. The place where Yiqing Luo was standing earlier had an obvious dent. Gravel flew everywhere, and the surrounding trees also rustled under the strong wind. Hall Master Wu Yan's face was filled with pride. Just as he was about to clap his hands and retract his profound energy, under the billowing smoke and dust, there was no one floating in the area where she attacked. There were no screams as expected. She didn't frown. Instead, she fixed her gaze on him. Suddenly, his ears twitched, and the expression on his face instantly became sinister and ruthless. "Damn it!" Hall Master Wu Yan scolded in a low voice. She quickly followed the aura and turned back. But it was already too late. That fiery red figure was extremely fast. With just a few instantaneous steps, not only did he avoid his attack but he also managed to dodge it. He quickly closed in on Wu Fu-er, who was being taken care of by the maidservants in the crowd. Wu Fu-er was dumbfounded. Yiqing Luo's speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, she only felt a strong gust of wind coming towards her. There was no reaction. His body suddenly felt light. His neck was grabbed by an ice-cold hand. Wu Fu-er's eyes widened in disbelief. In Wu Fu-er's heart, his grandmother was the most powerful person in the world. If it wasn't for the fact that Grandma remembered her friendship with the palace master, she wouldn't have been able to find him. The palace lord of the Ling Long Palace. Even grandmother can take on such a great responsibility. She thought that once Grandma made a move, Yiqing Luo would have no chance to retaliate at all. Then she would kneel and beg for mercy, begging him to spare her life. His heart was filled with beautiful fantasies. But the reality was that she had become his captive. When on earth did Yiqing Luo get past her grandmother's attack and came to her side? She wasn't the only one who didn't notice. Even Grandma didn't notice this. Wu Fu-er could not understand. The strength of the grip on her neck made her face flush red. She found it hard to breathe and the whites of her eyes rolled up. The aura of impending death made her want to cry for help and struggle. However, he couldn't use any strength at all. Yiqing Luo. Not only Wu Fu-er was shocked, Hall Master Wu Yan was also shocked. The raging anger in her heart almost swallowed her rationality. Let go of Fu-er. Chapter 4107. I won't touch you. Hall Head Wu Yan's eyes were fixed on Wu Fu-er, looking at her pained expression as though she was about to suffocate. She was worried and anxious. Her hands clenched into fists, suppressing her anger. Yiqing Luo, let go of Fu-er. Today's matter. Let it go. Let it go? Yiqing Luo smiled sweetly as she glanced sideways at Wu Fu-er, whose face was flushed red. Yanwu City's mysterious maiden barged into my guest room without any explanation, treating me so rudely, and even tried to make a move. My young heart has suffered a serious injury. Her other hand pressed against her chest as her face revealed a pained expression. It was so exaggerated that it was obvious that she was pretending. What do you want to do? Hall Head Wu Yan looked at Wu Fu-er carefully as he asked while restraining his temper. As Yanwu City's mysterious maiden's elder, not only did you not discipline her for her wrongdoings, you even made a move on me without any explanation, hurting my already injured heart once again. Yiqing Luo blinked her innocent eyes as though she had suffered a huge grievance. Her drama queen look made Hall Head Wu Yan's face twitched a few times. The gaze he used to look at Yiqing Luo was filled with hostility. Yiqing Luo, who had a hostage in her hands, had nothing to fear. If you have the ability, come and hurt each other. In this Ling Long Palace's territory, if she really made a move against Hall Head Wu Yan, then she would be really stupid. Rather than making a move against Hall Head Wu Yan, why not find a chance to reason with Hall Head Wu Yan? Of course, the other party wouldn't listen to reason or whatever. So, this was the only way to make Hall Head Wu Yan calm down and listen to her reason. Hall Head Wu Yan. Calm down my ass. She was about to explode, all right. Hall Head Wu Yan's eyes turned red from anger. Her voice was squeezed out word by word through gritted teeth. What exactly do you want? What I want is very simple. Both of you apologize to me and this matter will be over. Yiqing Luo put on a, "I'm so kind, so cute, so considerate" expression. Dream on. Wu Fu heir, whose throat was being strangled, tried to pry open Yiqing Luo's hands and refused to apologize. She didn't believe that Yiqing Luo really dared to kill her in front of her grandmother. This was the Linglong Palace. If Yiqing Luo really dared to make a move, Yiqing Luo would definitely die here. Oh, looks like Yan Free City's mysterious maiden has a backbone. I'll have to fulfill your backbone. Yiqing Luo's smile deepened as her fingers touched Wu Fu heir's face. If you have the ability, kill me. Do you think I'm really afraid of you? Wu Fu spat out the words with great difficulty, her tone extremely stubborn. Yiqing Luo's eyes widened as she innocently raised her head towards Hall Chief Wu Yan. Hall Chief Wu Yan, you heard it with your own ears. This is her request, I'm only fulfilling her wish. When he said the last, "Oh," he purposely raised his voice. She seemed to be acting cute and spoiled. Her eyes were full of smiles. The expression on his face was also a pure and innocent smile. However, at the moment when he finished speaking, a voice suddenly rang out. Her slender jade-like fingers suddenly clenched tightly. That strength was so deep that Wu Fu's eyes rolled back and she almost fainted. However, the feeling of pressure on her neck caused her to regain her consciousness in an instant. That kind of instantaneous contact with death. It made Wu Fu's inner heart surge with immense fear. Chapter 4108. The aura of death finally made Wu Fu feel fear. She tried her best to roll her eyes as her fingers dug into Yiqing Luo's hand. Yiqing Luo. Hall head Wu Yan clenched her teeth as her eyes blazed with fire. Her profound energy was tensed up as though it would explode at any moment. You dare to hurt Fu, or I will make you regret that you were born into this world. Yiqing Luo raised her brows as she gave a casual smile. It's not a loss for me to be buried with Yan City's mysterious maiden. Hall head Wu Yan was so angry that she almost crushed her teeth. She regretted underestimating Yiqing Luo's sinister level. Regretted not being able to protect her own granddaughter. Which gave Yiqing Luo a chance. When had Fu ever suffered such pain? Looking at Wu Fu's twisted expression, Hall head Wu Yan's heart broke. She was filled with rage, but she didn't dare to act rashly. In Hall head Wu Yan's heart, she agreed with Yiqing Luo's words. Her Fu the most beautiful lady in the world, had an unlimited bright future. How could she be buried with Yiqing Luo? What I want is merely an apology. Is my request too much? Yiqing Luo tilted her head innocently. Following that, she put on a saintly white lotus expression, expressing her puzzlement. You're obviously in the wrong. I'm asking you to apologize, not asking for your life. Look. The more she pretended to be innocent, the more you're being unreasonable, expression. This made Hall head Wu Yan so angry that she almost threw up blood. She suppressed her anger and gritted her teeth. All right, I'll apologize to you. Let go of Fu. After saying this sentence, Hall head Wu Yan practically used all the strength in his body to restrain his raging emotions. Between his teeth he spat out a few words. You can not. Yiqing Luo clicked her tongue. So insincere? As though I'm forcing you to apologize. Hall head Wu Yan doesn't recognize your own mistake? Don't push your luck. Hall head Wu Yan was furious. Yiqing Luo touched Wu Fu's face. Hall head Wu Yan doesn't seem to dote on this granddaughter of yours. Hall head Wu Yan was so angry that she was trembling. That was an anger that she tried her best to suppress. The surging profound energy wave after wave rippled out in the air. The air whistled like a hurricane. A tyrannical pressure covered the entire space. The surrounding disciples of Linglong Palace were so frightened that they did not dare to make a sound. This was the first time he had met someone like Yiqing Luo who didn't play her cards according to common sense and whose skin was so thick that it was indestructible. How do you want me to apologize? Hall Chief Wu Yan's eyes were sharp as he asked word by word. Yiqing Luo replied, Do you need me to teach you how to apologize? How insincere. Hall head Wu Yan shut his eyes tightly, suppressing his anger as he slowly walked towards Yiqing Luo. Immediately after, he faced Yiqing Luo and slowly bowed down. I, Hall Master Wu Yan, represent Fu'er to Hall Leader Wu Yan's waist was just about to bend down. An invisible force stopped Hall Chief Wu Yan's movements. The young girl's clear and melodious laughter reached his ears. Hall Master Wu Yan really dotes on the mystic fairy of the Wu Yan city. It's really enviable. Hall leader Wu Yan had yet to react. He straightened his body under the invisible force. Right in front of him he saw Wu Fu being thrown into his arms. Hall leader Wu Yan immediately stretched out his hand and carefully caught Wu Fu bringing her into his arms. Fu. Hall leader Wu Yan anxiously called out Wu Fu's name, his face filled with worry. Chapter 4109. Wu Fu took some time before she managed to catch her breath. Her little face had turned pale from fright. Both her hands holding Hall head Wu Yan's hands were still trembling. That frightened and pitiful look. It made Hall head Wu Yan's eyes turned red from heartache. She pulled Wu Fu into her arms and gently patted her back to comfort her. Her eyes were filled with a murderous glint as she stared at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo calmly welcomed this sharp gaze as the smile on her lips didn't diminish at all. She slowly walked towards them as her voice was gentle. She's fine, after resting for a few days she'll be able to jump around again. Shut up. Hall head Wu Yan shouted angrily. Yiqing Luo spread her hands out as she put on an innocent look. I'm just protecting myself. Following that, her lower lips curled upwards as her eyes rose, giving off an indescribable flirtatious look. Moreover speaking, Hall head Wu Yan as an elder doesn't know how to teach the younger generation. So I shall help Hall head Wu Yan to discipline this ignorant granddaughter of yours, in case she gets beaten to death outside. It was still all right if Yiqing Luo didn't say anything. This one sentence ignited the anger which Hall head Wu Yan had been suppressing in her chest. She hugged Wu Fu tightly as her profound energy burst forth as it pressed towards Yiqing Luo in an overwhelming manner. Who do you think you are? My granddaughter. Do you have the right to make irresponsible remarks? The power under a raging fury. It was close to destroying the heavens and earth. It was just a moment's effort. Yiqing Luo felt that the air was surging with raging waves. She could even hear the sound of the air cracking continuously. The air waves kept on surging. One wave after another, spreading in all directions. The houses in all directions kept on shaking. The trees were rustling from the strong wind. There were even some trees which were uprooted and overturned. Yiqing Luo's face didn't show any signs of panic. Even in the face of the dark force that was rushing towards him, her expression didn't change at all. Her peripheral vision slightly glanced towards a certain direction. Immediately after, she concealed the flash of ridicule in her eyes. His footwork was quickly executed as the dark force pressed down on him. TSK. I knew it. Hall Master Wu Yan is a person who doesn't keep his word. After releasing the hostage, Hall Master Wu Yan wants to kill me. Looks like I still need a hostage to ensure my safety in the Linglong Palace. The young girl said casually, her tone full of ridicule. As the saying goes, if the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. I'm afraid that Mystic Fairy of Wanyan City has learned her character of making trouble out of nothing from Hall Master Wanyan. Hall Master Wu Yan's eyes turned icy cold as his murderous aura manifested, as he struck a palm strike towards Yiqing Luo. Courting death. Thick and tyrannical profound energy tumbled unceasingly, as though a raging tsunami was approaching from all directions. Yiqing Luo had nowhere to hide. However, this time round Yiqing Luo had no intention to avoid it. His eyes were filled with laughter as if he was mocking something. The surging dark force was extremely fast. But in a blink of an eye, it had already reached Yiqing Luo's face. The surrounding air seemed to be torn apart by the sharp profound light. She instantly felt that it was hard to breathe as a stuffy feeling arose from the bottom of her heart. The surging tyrannical might continued to spread. Yiqing Luo's face turned slightly pale. But she didn't move a single step. Just as that raging tsunami was about to swallow Yiqing Luo. Suddenly Yiqing Luo's surroundings at a speed which was visible to the naked eye, was enveloped by a layer of green halo. That halo enveloped Yiqing Luo within it. It was like a cyan crystal ball, and from time to time, it would flash with cyan electric light. Bam! Chapter 4110. Instantly, under that collision, two bursts of energy exploded. After a series of earthquakes. Only then did he gradually stop breathing. Hall head Wu Yan's expression changed when she saw the layer of green light which enveloped Yiqing Luo. She swiftly raised her head and looked in front. When she saw the indistinct figure in the profound wave, her expression turned steely green for a moment. But it was just a fleeting moment. Immediately after, her expression converged as she pursed her lips. Hall Master. From afar a few figures walked over. All of them were dressed in lotus green robes. But the clothes and patterns on them were totally different. Walking right in front, her footwork was steady and dignified. Her dignified hair and makeup made her youthful face look a little old. Yiqing Luo estimated that this Linglong Palace Hall Master was not more than 30 years old. Under the dusky profound wave, that person's figure was indistinctly visible. It looked like it was very far away. But in a blink of an eye, she had already appeared in front of everyone. That person didn't look at Hall Head Wu Yan. Her gaze fell on Yiqing Luo immediately. Linglong Palace Hall Master. Yiqing Luo greeted the Hall Master's gaze with a smile. Linglong Palace Hall Master's gaze sunk as she stared at Yiqing Luo for a long time before nodding slightly. Miss Yi. Hall Master. Hall Head Wu Yan's face turned black after being neglected. She's the murderer who killed 2 mysterious maiden. Now that she's at Linglong Palace, she's still acting wantonly, attempting to kill our 3rd mysterious maiden. The hand which she used to point at Yiqing Luo was trembling slightly. Apparently she was extremely infuriated. Hall Master, a person like this must be taught a lesson. Hall Head Wu Yan's hysterical accusations made Linglong Palace Hall Master's gaze shift onto her. When Hall Head Wu Yan saw that, she angrily complained, Hall Master, look at mysterious Yen maiden she almost. Hall Head Wu Yan. Linglong Palace Hall Master calmly spoke. That voice was obviously dignified and solemn. But it was melodious and extremely pleasant to the ears. Hall Chief Wu Yan felt a chill down his spine and lowered his head slightly. I have my own plans for this matter. Her voice was very calm. However, his next words were cold and dignified. However, Hall Master Wu Yan, the most basic principle of a person is integrity. As the Hall Master of the Linglong Hall, I hope that you will not do anything that will bring shame to the Linglong Hall. Hall Master Wu Yan's face immediately turned green and red. His slightly lowered eyelids hid the cold glint that flashed across his eyes. His lips moved. You're right, Temple Master. Hall Master. It was obviously her. She attacked me in the Linglong Palace and even tried to kill me. Grandma just felt sorry for me. When Wu Fu-er heard the Hall Master's words, she lifted her head from her grandmother's embrace. His face was pale and covered in cold sweat. He looked extremely haggard. Hall Head Wu Yan clasped Wu Fu-er's shoulder as he berated her in a low voice. He immediately raised his head and his face was filled with terror. Fu-er is not sensible, Hall Master. Please don't be calculative. Linglong Palace Hall Master didn't even bother to take a look at Wu Fu-er. Her eyes were calm and indifferent. Miss Yi said something very right. As mysterious maiden Wu Yan's elder, you can dote on her, but you must also discipline her. Hall Head Wu Yan felt a fire burning on her face. Chapter 41:11. Wu Fu-er saw that her grandmother was acting so submissive. His face was filled with indignation. He opened his mouth wanting to refute. Hall Master Wu Yan quickly pulled him back. The Linglong Palace Lord only glanced at Wu Fu-er indifferently before looking away. When the Linglong Palace Master's gaze landed on Yiqingyu's expression changed. Hall Leader Wu Yan's body suddenly stiffened and he lowered his head with a pale face. Hall Leader, I will definitely discipline mysterious Yen maiden strictly. She will definitely bring shame to Linglong Palace. While the two were talking, Yiqing Luo, who was standing by the side, took a panoramic view of this scene. Just now, when Hall Master Wu Yan apologized, Old Man Song told her that there were other auras nearby. Yiqing Luo didn't need to guess to know that it was absolutely the Linglong Palace Lord who had arrived. Because of that was why she had purposely let Wu Fu-er go. He also forced Hall Master Wu Yan to attack out of humiliation. The reason she did not dodge when Hall Master Wu Yan's ferocious attack was because she knew that the Hall Master of the Linglong Hall would not watch as she was killed. After all, she still had the title of His Majesty's woman. If he really died in the Linglong Palace Hall under such circumstances, he would not be able to escape. That would be like slapping Dizun in the face. Therefore, the Palace Master of the Linglong Palace would definitely not stand idly by. It would also make it more believable that Hall Master Wu Yan had tried to kill her. This was blatant proof. Furthermore, who knew how long the Linglong Palace Master had been watching from the dark? How much did he see? No matter what, It was a fact that Wu Fuer had taken the initiative to cause trouble and had even made the first move. The ones who were in the wrong were the two of them. "Miss Yi, are you all right?" The great judicial judge walked out from behind the Ling Long Palace Lord and sized Yiqing Luo up. This could not be considered concern. It was just a question to prevent other troubles from getting him into trouble. Yiqing Luo's lips curled as she replied in an indifferent tone, "If Hall Master had come a little later, I might be in trouble. This matter is the fault of the Ling Long Palace. The Ling Long Palace will take responsibility for this." The Grand Judge cupped his hands towards Yiqing Luo. "Ling Long Palace will definitely give Miss Yi a satisfactory explanation." Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows. His attitude seemed to be completely different from when he first arrived at the Ling Long Hall. He actually gave her a satisfactory explanation? Hey, this change is a bit too big. Yiqing Luo expressed that there was definitely a problem. It was because, had the Grand Judicial Officer verified what she had said to him in the carriage? This thought flashed past Yiqing Luo's mind. And he got his answer. Because when the Great Justice politely said those words, it was obvious that he was trying to curry favor with Kirin. Wu Fuer, who had just recovered, was so angry that she almost exploded. Her face was pale as her eyes stared deadly at Yiqing Luo as she cried out hysterically, "Grand Judicial Elder! She was the one who hurt me and even tried to kill me. How is it my fault?" Seeing that his granddaughter still dared to talk back to the Great Justice in front of the Hall Master Wu Yan immediately reached out to stop Wu Fuer. The Grand Judge's gaze swept over her hand, which was holding Wu Fuer's hand. He narrowed his eyes and said coldly, "Hall Leader Wu Yan, there is no need to stop me. I would like to hear what grievances the mysterious Lady of Yama has." Hall Leader Wu Yan's hand trembled as he wanted to explain for Wu Fuer. A cold and dignified voice completely suppressed Hall Leader Wu Yan's words. "I would like to hear it too," the Ling Long Palace Master said. Chapter 41:12. However, Wu Fuer did not feel her grandmother's anxiety. Instead, she felt that the words of the Hall Master and the Judicial Grand Elder were supporting her. She raised her head with confidence and said, "Hall Master, Grand Elder of the Judicial Grand Elder. When we three Empyrean fairies left the Linglong Hall and returned to the main city, this woman killed without embroiling cities Qiao Yulu and shadowless cities Mu Qiulan." She paused and said, "After the Grand Elder of the Judicial Grand Elder brought this woman back, she wanted to kill me, the third Empyrean fairy. If not for my grandmother's timely arrival, I would have been a corpse in her hands." Wu Fuer's eyes reddened as she said this. She pinched her sleeves and pressed the corners of her eyes, looking aggrieved. "She actually dared to attack me in the territory of the Ling Long Palace. She clearly doesn't respect the Ling Long Palace and you, Palace Master." She did not forget to direct the anger towards the Ling Long Hall Master as she complained. After a while, Wu Fuer raised her eyes tentatively, sobbing as she quietly looked at the expression of the Ling Long Palace Lord. But she looked at him. She felt a chill run down her spine. The hand that was pressing the corners of her eyes froze. The reason for that was because the Ling Long Palace's Hall Master did not reveal the furious expression that she had imagined. More accurately, the Ling Long Hall Master did not even show any expression. Her eyes looked as if they had been soaked in ice without any ripples. "Lord." Wu Fuer was so shocked that she took a step back, her voice trembling. The Judicial Grand Elder of the Judicial Grand Elder sneered at her and said word by word, "Where did Xianxia NV hear the rumor that Miss Yi killed the Empyrean fairy?" Wu Fuer's face turned pale in an instant. She wriggled her lips and trembled a little. The Hall Master and I have been nearby for a long time," the Judicial Grand Elder of the Judicial Grand Elder added. "Yes, from the moment you brought people to break into the guest room." Wu Fuer's eyes widened. Even Hall Master Wu Yan's expression changed. Plop. The grandfather and grandson pair knelt in front of the Ling Long Palace Lord, and they were trembling in fear. The Judicial Grand Elder of the Judicial Grand Elder and the Hall Master saw everything clearly. They had no way to refute. The two of them kept begging for mercy. The Judicial Grand Elder's words shocked Yiqing Luo slightly. Her long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly. Before Wu Fuer barged in, she was already nearby. How long ago was that? Does that mean he also knows that the Palace Master of the Palace of Darkness is in her room? She actually did not notice it at all. Perhaps just now, Old Man Song suddenly sensed an unfamiliar aura nearby. The palace master of the Linglong Palace had intentionally wanted her to sense it, if that was the case. This Linglong Palace master was really a bit scary. Hall Chief Wu Yan, you should know what to do. Linglong Palace Hall Master's faint voice rang, interrupting Yiqing Luo's deep thoughts. Hall Master Wu Yan shrunk back a little. His hands that were kneeling on the ground slightly curled up, and he finally said word by word, "Yes, I understand." Hall Wu Yan walked past Wu Yan and Wu Fu without making a sound. But Hall leader Wu Yan felt a huge pressure pressing down on her internal organs, causing her face to instantly turn pale as she felt a dull pain. But she didn't dare to make a sound. Chapter 41:13. Hall Master Wu Yan knelt down with his forehead on the ground, not daring to make a sound. "Miss Yi." Linglong Palace Lord stopped in front of Yiqing Luo. The distance between the two was just a step away. The overbearing pressure made Yiqing Luo's brows creased slightly. She pursed her lips and met Linglong Palace Lord's gaze without any intention to retreat. "What's the matter, Linglong Palace Lord?" Although this matter started because of mysterious Lady Yan, but Miss Ye's actions I don't approve. Linglong Palace Lord said calmly. Yiqing Luo nodded calmly. "I don't deny this point." Following that, she smiled faintly and her brows were calm. "After all, I'm a guest invited by the great judicial magistrate. As a guest, it's indeed inappropriate to make a move in the master's house." Saying that, she cupped her hands together and bowed respectfully towards Linglong Palace Lord. "Will Linglong Palace Lord please forgive me?" Faced with the oppressive might of the Linglong Palace's hall master and the invisible pressure pressing down on him, Linglong's expression changed. Yiqing Luo didn't have any stage fright. Instead, she faced it calmly. This made Linglong Palace Lord's eyes filled with some probing. Especially Yiqing Luo's calm look and actions without any ill feelings really made one had no choice but to look up to her. At such a young age, she knew when to yield and when to stand tall. She knew how to use extreme measures to protect herself in times of danger. He also knew how to admit his mistakes and apologize in a well-behaved manner. She couldn't pick out any mistakes at all. This made it hard for her to continue pursuing this matter. The eyes of the Linglong Palace master deepened and the corners of his mouth curled up into a very shallow smile. "Miss Ye's magnanimity makes this palace master admire you. This palace master will accept your apology. Thank you, Linglong Palace Lord." Yiqing Luo smiled as her eyes curved. This scene made Wu Fu who was kneeling on the ground, eyes blazing. She almost couldn't control herself and wanted to stand up to disrupt this peaceful scene. She was Linglong Palace's mysterious lady. She was the real victim. She was almost killed by Yiqing Luo. As the Linglong Palace Lord, not only did she not help her seek revenge, he even punished her and was so kind to the enemies of the Linglong Palace. When had the Palace Lord of the Linglong Palace given them the slightest bit of face? Never. What was this? The more Wu Fu thought about it, the more indignant she felt. Before she could do anything, Hall Master Wu Yan, who knew her well, pressed her down. Hall Master Wu Yan glared at his granddaughter as a warning. At this critical juncture, if Wu Fu continued to cause trouble, she was afraid that she would not be able to protect Wu Fu, even though he was holding Wu Fu down. Hall Chief Wu Yan's anger was no less than Wu Fu's. She did her best for the Linglong Palace and exhausted all her efforts for the development of the Linglong Palace. But in the end, he was inferior to an outsider. Moreover, it was a murderer who had killed the mysterious fairy that the Linglong Palace had painstakingly cultivated. Just now, the meaning of the Linglong Palace master's words was already very clear. The palace master hoped that she would personally teach her granddaughter a lesson. Wu Fu's position as the Empyrean fairy was about to be shaken. Not only that, his position as the hall master of the main hall would also be shaken. The guest room that Yiqing Luo was staying in was completely destroyed because of Wu Fu. The Linglong Palace master immediately changed a room for Yiqing Luo. That room was adjacent to the judicial court. Basically, if there was any big commotion, the judicial court would be alerted at the first instance. The arrangement by the Linglong Palace master was to prevent something like Wu Fu from happening again. Chapter 41:14. Yiqing Luo knew what was going on. In fact, they were spying on her. In any case, this Linglong Palace hall was someone else's territory. No matter where he lived, he would be under the watchful eyes of others. She didn't have much to say about it. Moreover, after moving into this room, obviously there were no more people looking for trouble. Previously it was like the Calabash brothers saving their grandpa. Now it was too quiet. Ever since he helped Yiqing Luo to change her room, the Linglong Palace Lord did not appear again. Instead, the Grand Judicial Judge would come and hang around from time to time. After holing up in the Linglong Palace for a day, Yiqing Luo couldn't stay any longer. That day, after the Linglong Palace Master and the Grand Judicial Judge had sent her back to her new room, they had looked at her meaningfully for a long time with complicated gazes. He turned around and left. He did not mention anything about the death of the Empyrean fairy. It seemed that on the way to the Linglong Palace, the Grand Judicial Magistrate had purposely gone to find out what she had said to him. He had also gained a clear understanding of what had happened during the auction. Many people could prove that Xiao Yilu's death had nothing to do with her. Moreover, it was her, Yiqing Luo, and her group of brothers who had saved the various powerhouses in the Earth domain. This was why the judicial system's attitude towards Yiqing Luo had such an obvious change. This was also the reason why Linglong Palace Lord didn't investigate the reason why Yiqing Luo made a move on mysterious maiden in Linglong Palace. However, these are the reasons. Wu Fuer and hall leader Wu Yan would never be able to understand. However, even if she knew that she was not the one who killed Xiao Yilu, the Linglong Palace Lord and the Grand Judge still had no intention of talking to her. Yiqing Luo. So why did he bring her to the Linglong Hall? His attitude was one of indifference. Wasn't he simply stalling for time? Within a day in the Linglong Palace, the only thing Yiqing Luo could confirm was the Linglong Palace was indeed related to the Gloomy Palace. However, it was not deep. At the very least, the body of the Linglong Palace Master did not have the sinister aura of the Dark Nether Palace. In fact, there wasn't even the slightest hint of his aura when he came into contact with it. This made Yiqing Luo curious. Yesterday, how did the Palace Master of the Netherworld Palace sneak into her room without being noticed by anyone in the Linglong Palace? Yiqing Luo couldn't understand and felt bored. Yesterday it was one wave after another. He was annoyed. He was so bored that he didn't even have someone to talk to. She wanted to take the initiative to cause trouble. Yiqing Luo sighed softly as she lowered her head and lifted her finger. Her gaze fell onto her fingertip, on that ring which resembled a fire phoenix. She caressed it gently. The news had already been out for a day. Hadn't Zhou Xian followed the scent of the profound phoenix ring and rushed over to the Linglong Palace? Just as he was thinking, a few light footsteps could be heard outside the door. One of them whispered, "Don't make any noise." The person inside was someone who even dared to make a move on the mysterious Lady of Yen. "If we make too much noise, we'll be easily discovered." "Don't talk." Another person snapped. There were about 3 or 4 of them. Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows. What situation was this? He was just thinking of stirring things up. Trouble came knocking on my door? But, even if he were to do so, he would have to find someone with a higher degree of difficulty. These few were obviously inexperienced little disciples. Running here, other than sending their heads, what else could they do? Chapter 41:15. Women make things difficult for other women because of these few points. A female disciple pretended to be experienced. What? It's either jealousy or jealousy or jealousy. The female disciple replied. No matter what, it's all jealousy. This jealousy thing is different. The female disciple was unfathomable. Everyone knows that our Linglong Palace's mysterious maiden is a rare beauty under the heavens. Her looks are superb and her status is something that everyone looks up to. Do you think that woman named Yiqing Luo wouldn't be jealous? That's true. The other female disciples nodded in agreement. The female disciple snorted coldly. So, because of jealousy, her heart is already twisted. All of you lower your voices, don't let her hear you. The person who berated them earlier reprimanded again. We're here on behalf of Yan Xiannu to see if she's secretly plotting to kill Yan Xiannu. If she finds out, all of us will be in trouble. The few female disciples sighed and didn't say another word. Yiqing Luo leaned against the headboard, listening to what the female disciples said outside the door. After hearing that, she couldn't help but raised her brows. These female disciples were duped by Wu Fu heir to see what she was doing? What was he up to this time? She was just punished by the Linglong Palace Lord yesterday. Now she had the energy to stir up trouble again? When the few female disciples quietly pushed open Yiqing Luo's room window, revealing a small gap, and were about to cast their vision into the room, the female disciples looked into a pair of charming eyes that were smiling faintly. Just a glance. They felt their hearts tightening. Not from shock, but their souls were captivated by this gorgeous face in front of them. She even forgot to breathe because of this. That pair of long and narrow eyes were sparkling like the stars, dazzling and dazzling. That pink lips curled into a smile. Even though they were females, they felt their faces and ears turning red as though they were being teased. You. Someone regained his senses as he ignorantly pointed at Yiqing Luo as he swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Yiqing Luo smiled sweetly as she waved her hand at them. I'm the one whom you mentioned. Jealous of your mysterious maiden of hell, Yiqing Luo, what a coincidence. You are. The women's faces turned pale with fright when they heard this. One by one they were so scared that they fell out of the window and sat on the ground. Yiqing Luo leaned over and leaned against the window. He stuck his head out to look at the ground. There were 4 female disciples in total. Each of them looked to be about 13 or 14 years old. He was also very handsome. Yiqing Luo's lips curled. Aren't you here to see me? Why are you so surprised to see me? The 4 female disciples stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking. He was both shocked and astonished. Especially when she said that Yiqing Luo was jealous of Wu Fu Er's female disciple. Her face seemed to be on fire. His pair of eyes, almost as though he was dead set on Yiqing Luo's face. The young lady in front of him had a gorgeous face, peerless elegance. Her fiery red robe set off that gorgeous face, which was very enchanting. Every smile and frown was a suffocating charm. It could be said. This young lady was the most beautiful lady they had ever seen since they were born. What did they say about jealousy? Envy? Chapter 41:16. Wu Fu Er's looks were totally incomparable to Yiqing Luo's. How could Yiqing Luo possibly be jealous of Wu Fu Er or the other 2 mysterious maidens who were already dead? What a slap to the face. The female disciples' breathing became erratic. Their faces turned red. He crawled up from the ground in a panic. Wee. The few female disciples patted off the dust on their bodies as they were embarrassed and irritated, not daring to take a look at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo leaned against the window and tilted her head as her smile deepened. These female disciples were really innocent and adorable. He didn't expect that there would be such a naive young lady in the Linglong Palace. These were probably children who had yet to undergo training and had just entered the Linglong Palace. These women were merely being used by Wu Fu. Yiqing Luo had no intention to haggle with them. Just as he was about to say something to tease them, he told them to leave. But the words were on the tip of his tongue. Before he could say a word, these few female disciples suddenly had a change in expression as all of them held onto their own chests. Their eyes widened as they stared deadly at Yiqing Luo. All 4 of them had the same expression on their faces and all of them were in pain. Yiqing Luo immediately swallowed back the words that were in her mouth. What happened? She flipped over and jumped out from the window. She quickly moved to the front of the female disciples and checked their pulse. The 4 female disciples widened their eyes in agony as they shook their heads desperately at her. But he couldn't say a word. In just a moment, their faces were covered with a layer of greenish black. You guys are poisoned. The moment she felt their pulse, Yiqing Luo could tell that something was amiss. The female disciples were like fish on the shore, one hand pressing on their chest, the other desperately waving as if they were grasping at a life-saving straw. The fear of death filled their eyes. Without waiting for Yiqing Luo to take out the antidote from the profound phoenix ring, the faces of the 4 female disciples were already covered with a layer of black. Then he stopped breathing and fell to the ground. At the same time, an urgent and sharp voice rang out. Judicial elders, this subordinate is absolutely not talking nonsense. I saw all of this with my own eyes, and if I don't rush over in time, I'm afraid. Following that, a middle-aged woman led 3 women dressed in elder robes over. When he saw Yiqing Luo half squatting on the ground and 4 female disciples lying on the ground, that middle-aged woman practically sprinted over as she stretched out her hand to tug Yiqing Luo. You're great. Witness and material evidence are all here. Let's see how you're going to quibble. Only her hand had yet to touch Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo dodged sideways. She took a few steps back from the middle-aged woman, and a cold glint flashed across her eyes. If she still couldn't figure out that this was a trap, she would be an idiot. It was obvious that this was a trap set up by Wu Fu heir, or more accurately Hall leader Wu Yan. He had purposely used these 4 female disciples to deal with her. Otherwise, how could there be such a coincidence? Coincidentally, these 4 female disciples died in front of her. Someone rushed over with the judicial elders and they happened to see it clearly. In order to deal with her, that pair of grandfather and grandson had really put in a lot of effort. He could even sacrifice his own disciple. These 4 female disciples who had just entered Ling Long Palace were just a few small cannon fodder. What's going on? Chapter 41:17. The Grand Judge had just left Yiqing Luo's room 2 hours ago. At that time, Yiqing Luo didn't show any signs of abnormality. What else could it be? I've long heard from Hall Master Wu Yan that this Miss Yi is arrogant, but I had not expected her to be so arrogant. A lady behind the Grand Judge sneered. Yesterday she injured Xianxia and V, and today she killed 4 new disciples of Ling Long Palace. Second Judge, aren't your words a little too arbitrary? The Grand Judge frowned as she took a look at the lady who choked. What exactly happened we will only know after we investigate. Grand Judge, Miss Yi was brought back to Ling Long Palace by you, and the person who made Ling Long Palace into such a foul atmosphere is also you. Her lips twitched coldly as her eyes were filled with ridicule. Now you still want to argue for her? Grand Judge, are you muddle-headed? The Grand Judge's face sunk a few degrees. Even Yiqing Luo, who was a bystander, could tell that the undercurrent between the 2 courts was surging. At this moment, the third lady immediately stood up and eased the atmosphere. Grand Judge, Second Judge. Although we saw 4 female disciples died in front of Miss Yi, but after all we have not seen it with our own eyes. How did Miss Yi kill the 4 female disciples? It's still too early to say anything now. She pulled the Grand Judge and the Second Judge. Let's wait for Hall Master to return and report this matter to him before we make a decision. Although this lady said that she was trying to be a peacemaker. However, from her tone and words, one could tell that she had a different opinion. She was certain that they were killed by Yiqing Luo. Right now they were just lacking the most crucial evidence. The Grand Judge shook off that person's hand. Third Judge, don't think that I don't know what you and Second Judge are trying to do. What can we do? The third judicial judge pushed the first judicial judge's arm and smiled warmly. For female disciples have indeed died here, and Miss Yi was indeed beside them. In addition, Protector Fan saw it with his own eyes. All of this can't be faked. It's understandable that the second judicial judge would suspect Miss Yi. The Grand Judge's face darkened as his gaze shot towards Yiqing Luo. What do you have to explain? What else is there to explain? Protector Fan saw with his own eyes that she bullied the new disciple of the Ling Long Palace Hall and specially went to the judicial court to invite us over. What's there to explain? The second judicial court's eyes were cold and fierce as he shouted angrily. Immediately following that, he shot his vision towards that middle-aged woman who went to capture Yiqing Luo earlier. The middle-aged woman, Protector Fan, immediately nodded and replied, "Yes, that's right. When I saw Miss Yi bullying the new disciple, I hurriedly rushed to the judicial court. In less than half an incense's time, Miss Yi killed him." The second elder sneered. This elder will definitely seek justice for the disciples in the hall. She raised her hand and said sternly, "Men, take the female disciple's body away and examine it carefully. Find out the cause of death." Soon, other female disciples walked over in an orderly manner. Who dares move? The first judicial officer was obviously infuriated by the second judicial officer's attitude. His face darkened as he said, "No one is allowed to touch these 4 corpses before the hall master returns. The female disciples have just died. Do you want them to be unable to rest in peace even after they die?" Second preceptor asked. Chapter 41:18. Tamper? What kind of people do you think we are? The second judicial elder's face sank as he bent down to grab those dead female disciples. Seeing the second judicial elder making a move, the first judicial elder naturally would not stand idly by. Their arms collided. Immediately the profound energy surged wildly in all directions. Gusts of hurricanes were emitted from their intertwined hands. Very quickly the 2 of them were in a mess. The other disciples immediately dodged. The third judicial elder stood on the spot with a smile, staring at the 2 of them without any intention to stop them. It was obvious that they had long been used to such a situation. It seemed that the first judicial elder and second judicial elder were notorious for not getting along. It was common for them to fight. Yiqing Luo's line of sight slowly shifted from the two of them to the three judicial officers. Her charming eyes narrowed slightly. Her pink lips were slightly pursed. A trace of light flashed past her eyes. She didn't know why, but compared to those two, Yiqing Luo had a strange feeling towards this third elder who seemed to be trying to smooth things over. Perhaps Yiqing Luo's gaze was too obvious. The third judicial elder who had been smiling at the two of them suddenly turned his head and followed Yiqing Luo's gaze. Their line of sight collided. Yiqing Luo also didn't feel embarrassed after being discovered by others. Instead, she calmly raised her eyebrows and said with a faint smile, "Third judicial elder doesn't intend to stop them?" The third judicial elder was all smiles. At this age, coupled with the amiability between his brows, he looked like an amiable grandmother. But the more such emotions, the moon made the strange feeling in Yiqing Luo's heart intensified. The third judicial elder shook his head. The two of them have been fighting for a lifetime, they are used to it. When they are tired they will naturally stop. Yiqing Luo hooked her lips and didn't respond. It was the third judicial elder who opened up the topic, walked towards Yiqing Luo and asked with a smile, "The first judicial elder treats you really well. Yesterday for you they did not hesitate to invite the hall master to change your room, and today for you they fought with the second judicial elder." She sounded like she was just having a casual chat. But the meaning of probing in her words was still very obvious. It seemed that the third judicial elder felt that she and the first judicial elder might have reached an unspeakable deal. This was also a test. What was the relationship between her and the judge? Yiqing Luo pretended not to understand the deeper meaning in her words, tilted her head, and her slender fingers curled up a strand of hair hanging on her shoulder. "Third judicial magistrate's words are wrong." "What do you mean?" "After all, I was personally brought back by the Grand Inquisitor. I can barely be considered a guest. But the mysterious Lady of Yen came to find trouble with me without any explanation and even tried to kill me. Hallmaster Wu Yan, for the sake of his own granddaughter, the two of them tried to take my life. Isn't this a slap in the face to the great justice system?" Yiqing Luo propped her chin as she replied with a beaming smile, "As for now, you've said it yourself, the both of them have been fighting for their entire lives and now they're merely making use of this matter to make a fuss." Yiqing Luo's words made the three judges speechless. Yiqing Luo took another look at the two who were entangled in battle and said, "Do you believe that if the second judicial judge were to stand on my side today, the person who insisted that I killed the 4 female disciples would be the first judicial judge?" Chapter 41:19. Yiqing Luo smiled as she lowered her eyes to look at the 4 heavily poisoned female disciples whose faces were pitch black. What a pity that these innocent and naive children have become the first batch of sacrifices. Children. Hearing Yiqing Luo's words, the 3 judges felt a little strange. Isn't Miss Yi only 15 or 16 years old? Bam, rumble, just as the both of them were talking. The surroundings suddenly exploded with a deafening sound. The two's energy collided heavily. Between heaven and earth, sand and pebbles flew as the profound wave surged. The air seemed to have split open into numerous cracks. Wave after wave reverberating in all directions. Yiqing Luo and the 3 judges leapt up at the same time, swiftly avoiding the affected areas. The violent energy was like a tide cracking the ground. The house shook as sand and pebbles flew up. After the two of them collided, they quickly rushed together again. Bam! There was another explosion. But it wasn't just the both of them who collided. But a breathtaking and violent energy suddenly rushed into the profound wave which the both of them were entangled in. That valiant and overbearing energy. Almost in an instant, it broke through the surging energy between the both of them. It also easily blocked the two's burning battle intent. Yiqing Luo, who was hiding in the safe zone, raised her head up, looking towards the direction of the third energy attack. He saw that graceful and noble woman slowly walk out from the air ripples that filled the sky. She was standing in the middle of the Great Judicial and Second Judicial. A pair of calm and emotionless eyes stared at the two of them quietly. Even if she didn't speak, they could clearly feel that kind of awe-inspiring, imposing manner from her. The two of them who were entangled in battle were interrupted by someone. But they didn't dare to reveal any anger on their faces. Instead, they swiftly stood up straight and respectfully bowed towards the lady who suddenly appeared, Palace Lord. Have you two had enough? Linglong Palace Lord spoke indifferently with a trace of coldness in her tone. The both of them trembled as they suddenly knelt on the ground. Palace Lord, please forgive us. The Linglong Palace Master's pitch-black eyes were as calm as still water. As a judicial elder, have you forgotten the rules of the Linglong Palace? We wouldn't dare. Both of them pressed their foreheads to the ground. Don't dare? The Linglong Palace Lord looked at them coldly and said, This Palace Lord really can't see why you don't dare to do it. The two of them shivered and didn't dare to speak again. Lord Hall Master, Guard Fan, who had been hiding in the corner, suddenly rushed out. He knelt on the ground and kowtowed to the Linglong Palace Master. Palace Master, the matter is not what you see. When Protector Fan rushed out, Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose. This Protector Fan had led 3 members of the judiciary to appear when the 4 female disciples had just breathed their last. Then he claimed that he had seen her humiliating the 4 female disciples with his own eyes. Clearly, this Guard Fan was on Hall Master Wu Yan's side. But, just now, if she wasn't mistaken, the reason why Protector Fan had rushed out at this time was because of the Emperor. It seemed like the 3 judges secretly gave her a look. This 3rd judge, indeed, wasn't as amiable as she looked on the surface. Speak. The icy cold words were filled with majesty. The Linglong Palace Lord's chilly eyes looked towards Guard Fan. Just one look. Guard Fan was so scared that she started trembling. Chapter 41:20. With a face full of tears and snot, Guard Fan recounted what had happened just now. She emphasized that it was Yiqing Luo who had bullied the female disciples and poisoned them when she brought the 3 judicial elders over. She also emphasized that the first judicial elder couldn't differentiate right from wrong and had to defend Yiqing Luo, and stopped the second judicial elder from touching the female disciples' corpses, which led to the war. In the end this battle was the reason for the first judicial elder. The second judicial elder was just defending herself. After these words were said, the first judicial elder's face turned as black as charcoal. But she didn't refute immediately as she continued to kneel on the ground respectfully. Her hands, which were placed on the ground, were clenched into fists tightly. Linglong Palace Lord's expression didn't change much when she heard what she said. Only that her gaze fell onto Yiqing Luo for a moment. Very quickly it shifted away. Protector Fan didn't get any response from the Palace Lord and shrunk her head guiltily and fearfully. I'm telling the truth. Did I say that I don't believe you? Linglong Palace Lord sneered. Protector Fan shivered. Aye. Linglong Palace Lord walked past the 3 people kneeling on the ground and walked directly towards the 4 female disciples' corpses. Because of the battle between the 2 judicial elders, the 4 female disciples were covered with a layer of gravel and dust. Their pitch-black faces, which were obviously heavily poisoned, were particularly eye-catching. Linglong Palace Lord's gaze swept past those few people. She looked at Yiqing Luo. What do you want me to explain? Yiqing Luo shrugged. You Linglong Palace ganged up to bully an outsider like me. Is there any use for me to explain? Say it, I will make the decision. Linglong Palace Lord replied. The minute she said this, Protector Fan became anxious. Palace Lord, I'm telling the truth, absolutely not a single word of lies. You must not listen to that woman's nonsense. Linglong Palace Lord glanced at her, although she didn't say a word, but her eyes flashed past a faintly discernible ridicule. Yiqing Luo laughed. Protector Fan, I didn't say anything. How did it become a bunch of nonsense? I feel that Protector Fan has a guilty conscience. Protector Fan instantly raised her head. You're sinister and cunning. You would definitely quibble. Even the first judicial department has been bewitched by you and is fighting against the second judicial department. I just don't want Lord Hall Master to be deceived by you. Is that so? Yiqing Luo looked at Guardian Fan smilingly. So in Guardian Fan's eyes, the Grand Judicial Court and Linglong Palace Lord are so easily bewitched. Guard Fan was so scared that his face turned pale. He kowtowed to the Linglong Palace Master. This subordinate absolutely did not mean that. Enough. Linglong Palace Lord's expression sunk slightly as she shouted to stop Guardian Fan and looked towards Yiqing Luo. If there's nothing else to explain, this palace lord will take it as your tacit agreement. Yiqing Luo laughed as her eyes were filled with ridicule. As for me, there's really nothing much to explain after all. Just a little check on this corpse and the truth will eventually be revealed. Linglong Palace Lord squinted at Yiqing Luo as she raised her voice. Men, bring the corpse down. No need. Yiqing Luo raised her hand, stopping Linglong Palace Lord's words. Immediately following that, she leapt up and landed lightly beside Linglong Palace Lord. Following that, she bent down and lifted up a corpse on the ground. Chapter 41-21. Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes with a "you're an idiot" expression as she looked at Guardian Fan. I destroyed the corpse in front of all of you? Are you an idiot? Guardian Fan's face turned pale and red from being choked, as though he was infuriated but didn't dare to flare up. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about anyone else. He lifted up the female disciple's corpse and dragged her face, revealing that black face before the eyes of the Linglong Palace's palace master. Linglong Palace Lord, do you think that this poison looks like it was just administered? Yiqing Luo asked with a smile. The female disciples' faces were all purplish-black from being poisoned. It was extremely terrifying. Linglong Palace Lord took a look at the female disciple's corpse. Doesn't look like it. Yiqing Luo placed that female disciple back onto the ground and took out a handkerchief to wipe her hands while saying, according to what Guardian Fan said half an incense ago, she had seen me humiliating these female disciples, and half an incense later, the female disciples were poisoned. Then may I ask, how did I manage to let these female disciples' poison penetrate deep into their bone marrow in just half an incense's time? When Yiqing Luo asked this question, her pair of long and narrow eyes curved into crescents. But the words that came out of her mouth were sonorous and powerful, like a huge rock, falling heavily on Guardian Fan's heart. Guardian Fan was so frightened that he shivered all over. His eyelashes trembled, not daring to look at Yiqing Luo. His heart was beating restlessly. This young lady obviously looked like she was only 15 or 16 years old. But she had such a strong, imposing manner. Just one gaze and she pressured him till he couldn't breathe properly. Seeing that Guardian Fan had already lost her head out of fear, and was about to give herself away. Yiqing Luo's brows curved even more as her voice was suppressed to an extremely low level, so deep that it made one's heart tighten. Regarding this, I have another question. Why? You obviously saw me humiliating your Linglong Palace Lord's female disciples, but as a guardian, why did you stand by and watch? Obviously you could have stood out to stop it. Why did you take the unnecessary action of running over to the judicial courtyard and calling 3 judicial elders over? Yiqing Luo paused for a moment. Her slender fingers caressed her pink lips as she smiled sweetly. Regarding this point, I hope Protector Fan can give a reasonable explanation. Nurse Fan's mind went blank under the pressure of the questions. Actually, these questions were easy to answer. But when Yiqing Luo's pair of smiling yet treacherous cold eyes looked over, his mind was filled with thoughts, but he couldn't spit out a single word. This kind of pressure. Dean Fan had only felt this from the Linglong Palace Master. Cough. Third judicial officer, who had been observing from the side, coughed lightly as he slowly walked towards the direction of Yiqing Luo and the Linglong Palace Lord. Guardian Fan has been in the Linglong Palace for 10 over years, and her loyalty towards the Linglong Palace. I believe that Guardian Fan will not make things difficult for you for no reason. The meaning behind his words was, she believed Protector Fan's words. She also felt that Yiqing Luo had indeed humiliated the new female disciple. Following that, third judicial officer became gentle, as though he was a peacemaker, as he cupped his fists towards the Linglong Palace Lord. Mr. Palace Lord, if both parties insist on their own version of events, then this matter should be investigated properly. We cannot let outsiders see our Linglong Palace as a joke. Her words, although gentle, but the meaning expressed in her words, was extremely obvious. Yiqing Luo was only one person. We have to believe in our own family. If it was because of an outsider like Yiqing Luo, they would instead suspect their own family. Chapter 41-22. Yiqing Luo understood the deeper meaning in her words as her lips curled upwards as she smiled at her. Third judicial magistrate returned the same warm smile. That kind look seemed as though she was really thinking for her sake. The third judicial judge's words soothed Protector Fan's restless heart. She tried her best to calm herself down. Hall Master, I am absolutely loyal to Linglong Palace and to you. I will not dare to say anything false. She raised her head with a look of facing death calmly. Regarding what Miss Yi said, I can explain. As she said that, she looked at Yiqing Luo furiously, not concealing her disgust towards her at all. Yesterday, Miss Yi almost killed mysterious Yan Envy and forced Hall Master Wu Yan to kneel down and apologize. This matter had already spread throughout the entire Linglong Palace. When I saw Miss Yi bullying the new female disciples, even mysterious Yan Envy was not Miss Ye's opponent. If I were to step forward to stop her, I'm afraid one of the 4 corpses would become my position. The judicial court is just next door. I only needed to rush over to the judicial court and invite the 3 judicial elders to uphold justice. But who knew? Guardian Fan kowtowed hard as she spoke in extreme agony. If I knew that she would be so vicious, even if I had to die, I would stop her. These words were spoken with great sincerity. When Yiqing Luo heard it, she felt that she was really deranged, the main culprit who poisoned the new female disciples. Third Judicial Magistrate coincidentally opened her mouth again. Hall Master, as for what happened later, the other 2 judicial elders and I can also prove. When we followed Guardian Fan over, we indeed saw these 4 new female disciples lying at Miss Ye's feet. She sighed again as she shook her head helplessly. In this kind of situation, anyone would misunderstand. It was inevitable that Guardian Fan would lose control of her emotions after all. In Guardian Fan's heart, all the new disciples in Linglong Palace are her children. Guardian Fan even cooperated as she hugged her own head and kowtowed hard onto the ground. Between the 2 of them, it left Yiqing Luo with no way out. The second judicial judge tidied up his messy robe and proudly raised his eyebrows at the first judicial judge. The third judicial judge is right. When we rushed over, we indeed saw the female disciples falling at Miss Ye's feet. First judicial judge. Am I right? The grand judge's face twitched. He gritted his teeth and said, yes. Seeing the first judicial magistrate giving in, the second judicial magistrate felt even more satisfied. There's no need for any investigation on this matter. Yiqing Luo's intention to kill our Linglong Palace's people isn't just a matter of 1 or 2 days. She patted her sleeves again and looked sideways at the grand judge. Mysterious Maiden Wang's death can be proven to have nothing to do with Yiqing Luo, but Mysterious Maiden Ying was indeed killed by Yiqing Luo. This point is an undeniable fact. Miss Yi, if you really want to prove your innocence, you'd better cooperate with Linglong Palace's investigation. Third judicial judge persuaded Yiqing Luo in a friendly tone. Hearing the 3 of them talking one after another, Yiqing Luo kept a faint smile on her face as her arms crossed over her chest, without much change in her emotions. That was until the third judicial division brought the topic back to her. She lifted her eyelids lazily. She raised her hand and placed her slender jade-like fingers by her lips. Following that, she gave a lazy yawn. Chapter 41-23. Miss Yi. Second judicial officer's face sunk as he shouted, "Don't think that you can strut around Linglong Palace Hall just because of the Overlord's power. A life for a life is a matter of course. Even if the Overlord comes personally, you have to give us an explanation for this." Yiqing Luo's indifference, as though she didn't put anything in her eyes, really infuriated the few of them. Her tone also became heavier. Yiqing Luo tilted her head as she smiled faintly. Her slender hands slowly fell to the side of her body. The expression on her face was still that indifferent, without any ripples of emotions. Before she could open her mouth, a voice that was as cold as ice spoke. It was light and slow, yet it carried an irresistible pressure that easily suppressed the atmosphere in the area. "Have you said enough?" Just 4 simple words. Even the arrogant second judicial officer unconsciously lowered his head. When this voice rang, it made Yiqing Luo raised her brows in astonishment as she looked at the lady beside her. Since the 3 of them started talking one after another, not giving anyone a chance to reply, Linglong Palace Lord had not spoken a word. At this moment, the moment she opened her mouth, it made one's heart tremble. The Linglong Palace Master's face was calm and indifferent. On her beautiful face, there was an oppressive feeling that made one unable to breathe. Her eyes were as deep as an abyss, so black that it was gloomy. The atmosphere instantly became extremely oppressive. Silence for a moment. Linglong Palace Lord spoke again. "Don't you like to talk? Why not continuing?" The few of them shrunk back. Even second judicial officer followed suit and knelt on the ground. To be more precise, other than Yiqing Luo, everyone else knelt on the ground. This kneel. Yiqing Luo was like a crane in a flock of chickens. Second judicial officer quietly raised his head as he glanced sideways at Yiqing Luo, as though he was mocking her for her lack of manners. However, the palace master of the Linglong Palace was obviously angry. She didn't blame Yiqing Luo at this moment. Anyway, thinking of Yiqing Luo, this kind of young lady who didn't know etiquette. In the end, she was the one who suffered. But unexpectedly, things didn't turn out like what second judicial officer thought. Towards Yiqing Luo's standing out, the Linglong Palace master did not have any reaction at all. Her cold gaze was fixed on the few people kneeling on the ground. Since you don't think you're wrong, why are you kneeling on the ground? The expressions of the few of them froze as they could not discern the emotions in the Linglong Palace lord's tone. No one dared to speak first. The second and third judicial officers exchanged glances and clenched their fists. Palace master, do you think that the deaths of these new female disciples have nothing to do with Miss Yi? We will come to a conclusion after the inspection. A cold light flashed across the face of the Linglong Palace master. Following that, she looked at Yiqing Luo as her gaze was indifferent. What does Miss Yi think? We're in your territory, so naturally we'll listen to you. Yiqing Luo spread out her hands as she replied indifferently. The Linglong Hall's hall master swept her gaze across the crowd. Soon, a few of the female disciples kneeling on the ground stood up and carried the corpses away. The female disciples were carrying it. The Linglong Palace lord said indifferently, Miss Yi doesn't look like someone who would lower herself. If you don't want to, I can't make things difficult for you. The meaning behind her words was not to act as though she was forced. Yiqing Luo's brows rose. This Linglong Palace lord's attitude. Chapter 41-24. She really couldn't tell what the Linglong Palace lord was thinking about. The Linglong Palace lord seemed to be standing on her side. But her attitude didn't seem like it. Moreover, she didn't believe that she didn't kill Mu Qilan. If the Linglong Palace lord was standing on the side of the second judicial authorities, this attitude was obviously not right. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as something flashed past her mind. Wait a minute. Or perhaps, the Linglong Palace lord had long seen that the people in the Linglong Palace were in turmoil. The Linglong Palace lord's attitude was only directed towards the second judicial authorities. It had nothing to do with her. It could be said that this person, if it was anyone else, could do it. As long as she could make use of it to deal with the second judicial authorities, Hall head Wu Yan and the others who already had disloyalty. She wanted to understand this point. Yiqing Luo could finally understand the Linglong Palace lord's unfathomable attitude. Because of the Linglong Palace lord's intervention, the group of people very quickly moved to the judicial courtyard. It was extremely quiet along the way. Only the sound of careful breathing could be heard. Yiqing Luo strolled around leisurely as she walked beside the Linglong Palace lord, as though she didn't care about the results of the inspection. Whereas the few judicial authorities were walking behind her. And Guardian Fan who was swaying as his legs turned into jelly. The Linglong Palace lord led Yiqing Luo to the main hall of the judicial courtyard to sit down. Very quickly, a female disciple served hot tea. Yiqing Luo raised the teacup and took a sip. The tea fragrance was rich and it was indeed a top-grade tea. The Linglong Palace lord also raised the teacup as she flicked the tea leaves on the surface. Her eyes drooped and no emotions could be seen from her gaze. The tea in the teacup was steaming hot, making her face look hazy. Miss Yi doesn't seem to care about the results of the inspection? The Linglong Palace lord suddenly opened her mouth as her gaze pierced through the mist, looking at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo shook the teacup and the water splashed in the cup as the fragrance of the tea assailed her nostrils. She laughed lightly, because the results. I had already guessed it. The innocent are innocent. The corners of the Linglong Hall master's mouth seemed to faintly curl upwards. It was a very shallow smile and her tone was somewhat mocking. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as her peripheral vision shot a glance at those few people standing by her side, as her eyes flashed with some unfathomable meaning. The innocent will be innocent. Unfortunately, there are some methods and there's no way to guarantee that the innocent will be innocent. She put down the teacup and propped up her chin with one hand, half propping herself up on the tea table. Whether or not I can be clear, it will depend on your attitude, Palace Master. The Ling Long Palace Lord suddenly laughed. This was the first time Yiqing Luo had seen Ling Long Palace Lord smile. She held the teacup and smiled gracefully. His laughter was clear and pleasant to the ears. Yiqing Luo also raised her head and exchanged glances with Ling Long Palace's hall master as they both laughed at the same time. His laughter caused the second judicial officer and the others to look at each other in dismay. An ominous premonition rose from the bottom of his heart. But he seemed to have thought of something as he suppressed that feeling from the bottom of his heart. Only the amiable and benevolent face of the third judicator behind him flashed a trace of undetectable strange emotion. Yiqing Luo just drank her tea quietly, waiting for the results. Approximately 1 hour later or so. Then a middle-aged woman dressed in dirty clothes and stained with blood stains walked into the main hall with a solemn expression. Second judicial officer hurriedly went up to her. "Old Su, how is it? What poison did those few female disciples suffer from? How long was the duration of the poisoning?" Chapter 41-25. The female disciple was poisoned with a rare poison, the poison meridian grass. Just a little bit was enough to kill a person. According to the results of the examination, the female disciples were poisoned for no more than an hour. Because it was a rare and powerful poison, the poison spread throughout his body in a short period of time. The middle-aged woman read out the autopsy report. Second preceptor and the others all smiled. "I knew it. You were the one who poisoned him, weren't you? Now that the evidence is conclusive, what else can you say?" The second judicial officer sneered and pointed at Yiqing Luo. According to the duration of the poisoning, it was totally compatible with Yiqing Luo's time. It was entirely possible for Yiqing Luo to commit the crime. Basically, it was confirmed that the female disciple's death was related to Yiqing Luo. Guard Fan immediately knelt down in front of the Ling Long Palace Master and said word by word, "Lord Palace Master, the truth has been revealed." This subordinate did not speak a single word of falsehood. The Ling Long Palace Lord sat there and did not speak. She did not even look at Protector Fan. It was impossible to tell what he was thinking. For a moment, the entire hall was filled with a strange silence. After a long while, the Grand Judge slowly walked out. She stared at Yiqing Luo and the expression on her face was rather complicated. "Yiqing Luo? Are you really the one who killed him?" The Great Judge's voice was a little tense. Yiqing Luo could tell. The Grand Judge didn't ask this because he was worried about her. Instead, he was worried about himself. Because, from the moment they found the female disciple's corpse, the Grand Inquisitor was speaking for her and had shown that he believed in her. If he was really killed by her. In front of the second judicial system, the great judicial system was considered to have lost. This was a result that the great justice did not want to see no matter what. What else is there to ask? Old Su has already deduced the time of the poisoning. Second judicial judge interrupted. The time he was poisoned does not mean that Miss Yi was the one who poisoned him. Unless you have evidence or saw Miss Yi poison him with your own eyes. The first judicial judge's face darkened when he heard the second judicial judge's voice. She turned her head towards Yiqing Luo and asked once again, "Miss Yi, you're not the one who killed him, right?" Before the second judicial judge could speak, the judge was asking if she was the one who killed the man. Now the judge was asking whether she was the one who killed him or not. Was the first judicial officer using her as a tool to deal with the second judicial officer? Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes as she gave a mocking smile. Seeing the sneer in her eyes, the great judge felt a little guilty. All right, don't interrogate a little girl like that." The third judicial judge had a warm smile on his face. He put one hand on the first judicial judge and the other on the second judicial judge. "It's very simple to prove that Miss Yi didn't poison him. As long as we can prove that Miss Yi doesn't have the poisonous scripture grass on her, isn't it?" "What kind of proof is this?" The second judicial judge flicked his sleeves. "After she poisoned it, she might have thrown the poisonous meridian grass away. When we rushed over with Protector Fan, it happened to be the time when the female disciples died. During that time, she didn't have the time to destroy the evidence," the third judicial judge said. "So this point can still be proven." When the second judicial judge heard this, he turned his head and snorted coldly, but he didn't refute. Third judicial judge beamed at Yiqing Luo. "Miss Yi, I'll have to trouble you to cooperate." Saying that, the three judges took the initiative to walk towards Yiqing Luo. Before they even got close,